Welcome back to Soul Purpose with Shemama. This is your host, Shenora Lechleidner, also known as Shemama, the Underwire Slayer, also known as this mama has been on a roller coaster since the last time we chatted. So, for those of you who are new here, I am a wife, a mom of three. I am also a small business owner. I sell Ruby Ribbon. I'm a podcaster. I'm a lover of Jesus. And I just love serving in whatever way that I can to bring him glory. I have been a stay at home mom for the longest. The only time that I've gotten out to work a real job is when I worked at my kids' school back in Indiana. We have since then experienced homeschooling or virtual schooling due to the pandemic. And now we are in Georgia. We moved to Georgia in 2023. And I would suggest maybe going back to season 3 to see how that has completely gone because I want to keep these episodes short. But what I am experiencing is a culmination of what we've talked about in the past, which is grief and gratitude, understanding the importance of closed doors and some doors that have been open a little bit, but then they just closed. And so, what I am hoping that you will do is understand that this is a real podcast. I'm never going to put on airs. I'm never going to fake like everything is fine when it's not. But I'm also going to point it back to divine purpose. And I know that my steps are ordered and my family's steps are ordered. So we're just going to chat a little bit about the conversation we had last week and what has happened since then. So last week, my mid kid was on, and I just want to let you guys know that when I have my family on, including my husband, who is supposed to be my guest today, but like he's working like 7 days, and his only day off was Easter Sunday, and so we just embraced being together and celebrating. So last week, Kyrielle shared about how she wanted to stay at her school. When we moved to Georgia, we found a great school here, and just speaking up and speaking out because I am an advocate for public school. I went to public schools, but the best school for our children in this season of their lives was a private school. And they did everything that they could do as far as like their grades and getting academic scholarships and things like that, but it just still wasn't enough to cover all of the tuition. And so I went on this journey to supplement my business income to find a full-time job. And I was offered so many different opportunities for full time work. But unfortunately, because I am a mom and I did not necessarily have the village that I am growing now, I wasn't able to really secure high paying full time work because my kids needed me to pick them up from school, to be there for activities. My husband works very far away, and he is not able to be the first line of defense because he's the main source of income. But that's the way it's always been in our family. And if you are someone who has a village or a network and you were possibly raised like me, where Black women don't show weakness, we just get it done. Kudos to you. In my efforts to strive and do this thing on our own, I actually fell into some really hard health issues. I've been kind of like, how can you say it? I've been kind of like teeter tottering, with sharing completely because there's a lot of things that cause stress in a woman's life, and I always want this to be a podcast of hope, but I also want this to be a podcast of authenticity. So last year, I almost stroked out twice. Now, for those of you who know me personally, you know that that's the way my father died, and we are living in his the time that he was born in, and so that was just so hard on me mentally and physically. But the reason why it was hard is because we have been trying to overcome housing insecurity since we got here. There was a plan. That plan did not go according to plan. And when I tell you we had so much faith that it was going to work, that we would get here, that we would be able to store up and really create a new future. Because even in Indiana, a lot of people don't know, but I was for a couple of months the only source of income with my business because there was no work for union electricians in our area, and the only way for my husband to get work was if he were to travel across the country, which we had decided back in 2019 that we weren't going to do that on a full-time basis because of the age of our children. So we had already been experiencing hardship, COVID, everything. And then we got the opportunity to, basically take a faith move here. And we thought we had shelter. We thought we had shelter. I I struggle with sharing the story um publicly because I believe that the breakdown of everything that happened was for our good. Our family has grown so much closer because of the hardships that we have experienced. And I found out along the way as I was finally opening up to some people who were like, hey, I feel like something's wrong. That there are a lot more people that have gone through this and they just, they dealt with it quietly and it kind of turned around for them because both parents were working. That is the common thing. Both parents were working. So I just thought if I just try to strive and do what I can do, then I can make sure that we turn this thing around and it's going to get better soon. And our time is not God's timing, right? And so I was striving and striving and striving and striving, and my health was compromised. And then I finally got a decent paying job that was full time. And there were so many promises of you're going to be hired in. Here's what your benefits are going to be. And then all of a sudden, after my kids started school, I lost that job. And I had quickly gotten two more contracted jobs, and those were promising and decent pay. And I was like, all right, I got the two jobs. I had a schedule. With these two jobs, I was able to actually get the kids from school. So it was like, if you can just get through training, you'll be just fine. You'll have these two jobs. And one of the jobs, the day that we got out of training, which it was a struggle through training, there was so much disorganization and everything. They let everyone go on day one of work, and there was no like communication. I kept asking like, "Hey, we don't have a schedule," and they just kept beating around the bush. And so, if you're someone who's been struggling with getting employment, or just you're trying to do your best, but it's just not, working out, I get it. I probably get it more than you know. So when my baby said, I just want to stay at school, I said, okay, once again, I'm going to see if there's another scholarship, see if there's something that we can do to keep you in there because Kyrielle struggled with friendship. And now that she has it, it's not that she can't be with her friends outside of school, but it's nothing like walking the same path with these friends that you've nurtured these relationships and grown through them. And so I went and out on faith, and I went to the school and tried to see if there was something else that we can do. And there's nothing that they can do. Or I should say, I'm just going to say there's nothing they can do. Um, and also, even though I have already decided that I'm going to bring the kids home again, we have a huge balance that is going to have to be paid in order for us to get our grades released. So the stress of not necessarily knowing how you're doing in school, as well as leaving friends that you have gained, these past almost 2 years. It's hard on kids. And I never wanted my kids to experience this. And then again, I'm also grateful that they experienced this because God has placed people in our lives that may not be able to take care of the balance, but they have hearts for us. And there are certain needs that have been met without me even asking, without me even knowing. There's someone in my business community. If you don't know, I free women from bras. And I'm so grateful that I was able to mistakenly join this business because I was given women who genuinely care about my life, not just what I can do. And one woman just sent $100, like, I don't even know why she sent it. And all she said was, God told me to do this. And I know that when she says that, she means it. Now, this woman, she's going through so much in her life. Every penny counts. And she sent that, and the very next day, my son had to have a tooth extraction. And when I was driving him home, he said, Mommy, do you think I can get this special meal? And I was like, no, you cannot get this special meal. We just spent $200 on your tooth extraction. And he said, no, it was 200 minus 100 because of the person who sent the $100. And I said, that's perspective. So I don't want to come on here and make it seem like it's just been all bad and nothing good has happened. As a matter of fact, yesterday on Easter, my eldest baby, she chose to get baptized. And it was on Easter Sunday. And it's like, man, that's church prom, the church Super Bowl. It was the most beautiful experience. And I'm so grateful. Like, I think the emotion that came over me was that emotion of knowing that your whole house is saved. And I don't know how you believe, but I believe in Jesus Christ. And I'm not one of those weird Christians that's going to point the finger at you and tell you what you're doing wrong. Because what did Paul say? I'm the least of all the saints. Okay, the least. And yet Christ, chose us. He gave my family a tender heart to accept Him and accept His lordship. And so in the midst of all of this financial hardship and the baby talking to me and me trying and then it failing, we had water intrusion in the house. And this is not our home. It's a rental home. When we finally found a place to stay, it is over $2,000 a month. Now, this is a beautiful, it's not even reconstructed. I'm looking around at it. It's beautiful. When you walk in, it's like, wow, this is great. The foundation and some of the things that matter the most are not great, but we are in a position where unless something major happens, we're kind of stuck. And so we have water intrusion and that has to be fixed again. And not being able to say, okay, yeah, we can save up this amount of money so that we can move into another place. Every place is expensive right now. And we're a family of 5. So it's like we're in this place of, well, we know we should probably move to some place that isn't as expensive, but we can't save up to move. And then when we try to move, because of the housing insecurity, the credit is shot. Some of the things that we have, I don't even understand. All I can say is that it's God's favor. And I know that people don't like to talk about money. People don't like to talk about, oh, I'm having this hard time because everybody wants to placate and pretend like everything is okay. And then some people say, well, Shenora, why didn't you say anything before? We actually did, and there was a fundraiser that was created for us before I was doing YouTube podcast. There was a fundraiser that was created for us. There are people who have been sowing and sowing and sowing. And what I mean by sowing is it may not have been hundreds or thousands of dollars from people, but they would be like, hey, I feel like you need this. And we did. Let me be real. There's someone who was like, hey, I've got these organic pads. I know your girls are, probably gonna need them. So I'm just gonna mail them to you. They know that I only use organic. And I was in CVS trying to figure out if I was going to get the pads that were on sale, but I had to get my medication. And so it was like, okay, can you budget for this and meds? No, let's just wait. And then I went back again after payday and it was like, don't get those. Guess what? What I needed was already in the mail. So I have hope. That word for the year. I have hope that everything is working out for the good. Someone even said, Shenora, you should do it again, do another fundraiser. And you're more than welcome to donate to our Cash App, our Venmo, anything, whatever you feel led. I know that God is providing for us. He's provided community. I feel like a millionaire. We have the best community, not just digitally, but also physically. And what I mean by that is, no, they may not be able to pay our $2,000 rent, but I have people in our lives that say, hey, I want to take your kids here, or we want to invite the kids to this place, or come to our house and eat. You know how expensive it is to feed a family of 5 when eggs are like $16 a dozen? So when people say, well, just do a fundraiser, people will pour into you. Sometimes I get conflicted because I don't want to make it seem like we're not grateful for what has already taken place, right? But there's a need. This need is huge for our kids to get their grades. And the virtual school, the homeschooling program said we have to have a transcript. And there's no way to get it outside of paying this huge balance. And I believe that God can do anything, but it would be a disservice to my family if I didn't speak up, because I tried to get the jobs. I tried to pull it up by my bootstraps, and my bootstraps landed me on 3 or 4 new medications that are temporary. They are temporary. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've had to create some boundaries that were also contributing to my stress. I've had to distance from certain family members that were toxic to my peace that I already didn't have. And me telling them what was really going on was not going to serve either of us. So sometimes love is distance. Okay? I need you to get that. I'm so grateful that in the midst of all of the hardship, that God has deemed us worthy enough to put us on the mind of people. That's hope for me. I know that it won't look like this forever. My peace, my focus is to abide in Him. I have a sign that someone gave us because I finally got the home that I wanted in Indiana, and then less than 2 years later, we're gone. And it cracks me up because the motivation to move was that it was the perfect opportunity. The kids were at the perfect age, and I could get something I've always wanted, which was to move to Georgia. They got me this wooden sign, custom. And they said, what do you want to say? I said, I don't want to say welcome because I don't want everybody at my house. But it says, abide in Him. And the challenge to abide in God, while it seems like everything is crumbling around you, while your husband is asking for more hours, knowing that it's still not enough, but then again, it's more than enough because it's more than what the next person has. Man, that abiding feels so good to know that no, it's not perfect, but you really are under the shadow of the Almighty. I hope that you can feel that. Whatever your heart is, I have loved ones who are scared for their lives. They don't know if they're going to be deported. They don't know if their benefits are going to get cut off, even though they are legitimately disabled and cannot work. I have parents who are concerned about their children, who are having health issues. I have parents who are mourning because their children, their young adult children, couldn't take it anymore. And so, all of these things that I am experiencing and being able to be privileged to pray for and intercede for, I've also been challenged to have hope and pray and intercede for us. And that is a different kind of hope. Faith is the substance of all things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1, that was something that my great grandfather instilled into our family. So it has been repetitive in my ear. Have faith. My baby, when she said, I believe that we'll be able to go back to the school. I believe that maybe we'll even be able to stay. And my other child said, with what money? And she said, God can do anything. I remember having that zeal, that faith. But I want God to do what He wants, because there could be a blessing in us being home for a year. He may have something different for us. And so I'm not so tied into the way I want things to go that I'm negligent of knowing that His will and His way is better than anything I could have ever imagined. If you're struggling because you want to have faith and all the things in the natural seem impossible, I dare you to believe again. And I'm saying that even with the closed door, even with me being told no, because every time a door has closed for me, God has done the miraculous. I know that this episode is a little bit longer, but I want to share with you candidly that God reminded me that this is not the first time that I've dealt with housing insecurity. And the enemy tried to make it seem like it was me, that I was just doing all the things wrong and I was a bum. Okay? And I'm not a bum. I know that I am a God's child, okay? Even Jesus didn't have a home when he was born. And I'm not Jesus, but I'm just saying. When I came back from college the first time, I did not have a place to stay. I assumed that I had shelter, and I did not have a place to stay. And then God provided different avenues for me to have shelter, and they were not always the most positive. I actually got shot at one time. That would be a different episode, but a bullet went straight in front of my nose, and I wasn't even the person that person was angry with. They were just mad because they felt like I should have communicated something that I didn't even know. But I didn't have shelter then. And then when I finally got the courage, even after being dismissed from school, um, I got the courage to go back to Indiana. And I did not have shelter then. Actually, I stayed with a significant other for quite some time. And then we broke up. And the job that I was working at, it was a hotel. And they found out that I was going to have to be in my car. And it just so happened that there was water damage in the hotel. And they had some suites that were being fixed up. And so I was able to stay in the hotel until my apartment was ready. And, people say, well, just go back home if it ain't working. There was no home to go back to for me. There was no home to go back to for me. There was, at some point in time, my grandmother's home. But as she got older and had to go to an assisted living apartment, there was really no family home to go back home to. And not a lot of people knew. And I live my life as if people knew. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why when things really visibly started being hard, people didn't understand. And so I had these experiences and I just remember getting through them. But I think this time it was harder because I have children. After George and I got married, the plan was to move to Phoenix, Arizona. And we were going to start a new life, be in the sun. Um, and we had it all planned out. Then I got sick and I had to have radiation. And we had already told the apartment complex that we weren't coming back, and we found housing. And we lived in a house with several other people, and at first it was great, and then it became not so great. And we found ourselves in the position of needing a home. And George was like, we're not going to an apartment. We are not going back to an apartment. We will get a house. And we were about to close on a house. And the lender called me and said, why didn't you tell me that George was no longer employed? And I'm like, huh? um, he had an employer that was writing him up and he had no idea. This person was very just backhanded in the way that he did business. And ultimately, that rejection was for George's good because it led him on the path to becoming an electrician. But we had to get out of that home. And then I got pregnant. And the stress just came about, right? And what's so crazy is that no one knew how bad it was. And we were serving the church at that time. And only one person knew. She was the one that was praying for us. Not even our pastor knew what our conditions were because I was always like, nope, we're not going to stress anybody out. We're just going to get through this. And we finally found a home. And this is when I had given up. And I was like, I don't even want to look at the home. We found a home. It was perfect. The room was already painted pink for Cheris. And we moved into that home the week before she was born. And I know that it can be discouraging to feel like you're always riding on the cups of despair. Like, dang, why couldn't this have come through a long time ago and we had time to prepare and time to do this and time to do that? Sometimes you can work as hard as you possibly can and you still have to be on divine timing. And what I get from God reminding me about all of these occurrences is that He's been faithful every single time. And though I may not have always been able to understand why certain things happen and the housing insecurity issue, He's always been there. And He will use this I have a heart for those who are without homes. And even before we left, I didn't have much money, but I remember a man that was standing on the corner and George saw him and I didn't. And this was way before the podcast. I think. Maybe I don't know. No. The podcast was here. The podcast was here. But I know that is a area where I have passion because you never know why a person winds up in that situation. And they're not all bums. Some people are incredibly talented, smart. They may have gotten rejected, or they just don't have the network in the family that many people are used to. And that makes a difference. So, all that to say, um, everything is working out for our good. I don't know if I'll do a fundraiser or maybe I'll, do a TikTok video. I've been seeing so many videos I've been trying to support because a lot of people are going through hard. But I'm putting this out there because of my babies and because I want someone else to be encouraged that no matter what the heart is, God is with you. Just abide in Him. Abide in Him. And He will give you everything that you need. I didn't even realize I was crying. Anyways, I hope you have an amazing week. God is faithful. I love you and I mean it.